Enya's curse, the power of words to wound. Mighty Ma'ananan, the noble monarch of Tirtangeri, the fair-sided land of promise, and Ivan Avalok, the holy hill and island of apples. He made an announcement. He said now that Angus Macandach would be the key foster parent to the noble's children, for he was now lord of what was known as Shiddenbroga. But the name would change now. It would be known as Tech Macandach, the house of the son of the young. And so it was he announced that his first fostering would be his own beautiful daughter, Kirkok. But Angus insisted, after Alcma had been exiled, for he had made a promise to him that he would also foster the steward's daughter, who served Alcma so very well. Her name was Eithne. And so he took over what was known as Shiddenbroga, and now known as Tech Macandach, and he became the lord of that brew, and brought up Ma'anan's daughter, retinue of women, and of course Eithne, the steward's daughter. And rumours spread, and things happened, for the renown of these women was known across all of the lands, for they were delightful in every way, intelligent and strong and wondrous. And so Finbar, who was the younger brother of Angus, was very curious indeed, and he said to Angus, "Can I come over to the brew to meet these fine women I keep hearing tales about?" And he said, "Of course you can, brother, you're always welcome." So Angus turned up at the brew and was very excited to lay on a feast for his brother Finbar. When Finbar arrived, he said to him, "Would you like me to summon the women to you, or would you like to go and see them?" He said, "Oh, summon them here, let's see them all together." And so the women turned up. Kirkok turned up with her retinue of women, who were just wondrous, as all of the tales had said, in every way. And he looked at each one of them in turn, and then he saw Eithne. Bearing in mind, Eithne was considered to be just, if not more wondrous than them, intelligent and strong and beautiful to look upon. But Finbar saw that she was not of the race of the brew. She was not of the Tuatha Danann. She was not of the land of the earth gods and goddesses. She was of human origin, and he found that race abhorrent. For it was that race that were bringing in a new god that was not of Irish descent. And he looked at her, and he said, "Oh, who is this? Who is this dirty mess?" The pain of his words struck Enya's heart. She could feel it breaking. For suddenly she doubted who she was. Suddenly she doubted that she fitted here. All of what she'd been taught from the very moment she'd been born in the brew seemed to diminish, because she no longer was accepted and fitted in here. She was so distraught, and the pain was written all over her face. Her face started to frown and look distraught, and then it started to go pink and bright red, and then she felt her heart break, and something within her, the knowledge of who she thought she was, disappeared. Angus witnessed all of this. Although he was a great renowned warrior, warlike, wound-dealing, valiant, he also was a man of the heart, of empathy, and could feel all what was going on. He put his hand to his sword, but he steadied it. In that moment he could have taken out the sword, killed his brother and all of the men and women that he had brought with him, but he kept it there. He kept the sword sheathed, and luckily Finbar was sensible enough to leave the brew. But he didn't go far, and his people spoke to him, "Finbar, go back, please, make this up with your brother." They knew what it would be like if there was a war. There is the concept of a war between two people, but then if it becomes a blood feud, then if it goes on from generation to generation to generation, it's etched and stuck in a time that keeps spiraling. and going round and round again to the new generation that take on the ancestral hurt and pain. And so Finbar, knowing this, for the Tuatha Dé Danann, the people of the Sidhe live a long, long time, if not forever. And so Finbar went back into the brew. He bowed low on his two pale knees to his brother and said, "I'm really sorry for what I have done, for what I have said. Please forgive me." Angus had calmed down a little, but still had a fury there, and he said, "Why are you doing this, brother?" He said, "Because it's right for me to do this, to admit that I'm wrong, that I should not have done this, and I am your younger brother, and our connection is important to me." Angus said, "Rise," and gave him a big hug, and they both kissed each other on their bright red lips, and the smile filled up the brew again. They brought the ladies back to them, and they treated them equally. They made Eithne feel like she was the most special woman of the brew, and the other women delighted in this, and they had fine food and fine drink, and they really did, including Finbar, give Eithne no doubt at all in her mind that she was loved. But Eithne didn't feel that. The power of those words had changed who she was. The power of those words could not be taken back. She now felt that everyone around her knew she was different. Everyone around her knew she was of a different race, knew that she wasn't the same as them, and she could not leave that. And even though the feast was so grand and so exquisite, so delightful, she did not eat or drink a single morsel. And Angus was worried indeed. He embraced his brother and his brother's retinue and all these people, and Finbar went back to his brew. But Eithne was just the same, and she did not eat or drink for 7 days and for 7 nights. And then Angus was starting to get very anxious, and he thought, I've got an idea. He approached Eithne and he said, "Can I show you something which is really special?" And Eithne said, "Of course, Angus, I would love to see that." For she still loved Angus as her foster father. And so they went outside, and he took her to a stable, to the barn. And when they got to the barn, which was just past the stables, they saw a cow that was really beautiful to look upon. The dun cow with twisted horns, and it was always in milk. To hold the cow in place when it was milked, there was a silk spancel, and beneath that was a golden goblet. "Would you like me to milk the cow for you, Eithne, or would you like to do so?" She looked at the cow and she said, "Oh, I would love to have a go at milking it." And she started to milk the cow into this beautiful golden goblet which shone out with such grace. And once the milk had filled the goblet, Angus said, "Would you try and taste the milk from this? I know you haven't been eating or drinking, but why not try?" Eithne looked at him, and then she looked at the milk, and actually she felt something that she thought, I am going to try this. She thought she couldn't do it, but she had a feeling, and so she picked up the golden goblet, started to drink from it, and she had never tasted anything quite like it. It tasted of the finest wine and the sweetest honey. It was absolutely wondrous. It was delightful in every way. The milk of the motherlands, the milk of Banva, the milk of Boan, the milk of Briid, the milk of Govinda, the milk of Go, of Bo, of the great white cow that treads from India through to Ireland as the spirit of the earth mother in the form of the fecundity of the land, the most ancient form of the ancient mother. And she drank this milk, and she enjoyed it fully. Angus was now intrigued, and he sent out word. He sent out word to the sages, to the druids, to the Farfasa, to the Banfasa, the wise men and women, and he said, "Please tell me why she can only drink from this cow." But no one answered this. Whilst he was doing this, Eithne spoke to Angus and he said, where did this cow come from? Ha ha. When I was much younger, my Annanin taught me many things, for he knew that one day I'd be a lord of the brew. And one of the things we did, we went off on a voyage, and we went across the ocean to the eastern lands. And as we were going there, we came to two wondrous, wonderful golden pillars. And we passed through those golden pillars, and we went to the motherland of India. And when we got there, we discovered two cows, the dung cow, which I now have in the brew, and the speckled cow, which Ma'anan has in his own lands, in Eithne Avalok, Tirtangeri. And he said, oh. And both of those cows had a silk spancel and a golden goblet, and we brought them back with us and put them in those respective places. Ah, she said. And the story was now known. But still Angus wondered what was going on. And then Ma'anan heard of his dilemma, and he sent word. He said, bring Eithne to me, for Ma'anan could cure any ailment. Ma'anan could bring back the appetite of anyone who could not eat. Ma'anan had this certain skill sets, and so Angus said, I will do that. And he said, also send back my daughter. It'd be lovely to see Kirkok and her retinue of ladies too. Angus agreed. And Eithne who came from the human world, Eithne who had lived in the brew in the fairy palaces, amongst the earth gods and goddesses, she now was going on a stone boat, and yet it floated. She was going on a stone boat, yet it had no oars, and yet her thoughts would tell her where it would go. And on Ma'anan's boat, ocean sweeper, she went across what seemed like the endless sea. But then she saw an island. She had heard the stories of the islands, the many islands out on the sea, where we can go to the other worldly delights. And when she got there, she was astonished, for they arrived at Tirtangeri, the fair-sided land of promise, and it truly was everything she had heard about, even more so than the brew. She looked upon it the delightful land of honey and wine, beyond what seems to thee most fair. Rich fruits abound the bright year round, and flowers are found of hues most rare. Unfailing there honey and wine, and draughts divine of mead there be. No ache or ailing, night or day, death or decay thou ne'er shall see. 100 swords of steel refined, 100 cloaks of kind full rare, 100 steeds of purest breed, and she also saw 100 hounds they mead when there. Incredible. And Ma'anan laid this feast with all sorts of spices and flavours from all over the world and from all of the different islands of Ma'anan's country, of Ma'anan's seas. But Eithne did not eat a single morsel of any of that food, and now Ma'anan was intrigued indeed, for never had this happened to him, never had he been able to not sate the appetite of someone else, and so intrigued, and knowing Angus's tale of his dung cow, he said, come with me. And he took her out, past his stables and into a barn, and there it was, the speckled cow, with the same twisted horns upon his head, and it looked truly wonderful. And he also had the golden goblet and a silk spancel, just as Angus had told her. And Ma'anan said, would you like to milk this cow? And she said, of course. And she milked the cow, and there the milk went into the golden goblet. And it truly was wondrous. It truly was something she wanted to drink. For it was, again, as she drank it, it was like the finest wine and sweetest honey, the sustaining food of the motherland, the sustaining milk of Banva, the sustaining milk of Boan, the sustaining milk of Breed. Boan, Bo, Go, Govinda, the mother cow that comes across all of the Indo-European traditions, and she drank of it. Ma'anan knew now what had happened to her, and he summoned Curchock to him, and he said, "You must tell Angus this. When Finbar insulted young Eithne, a part of her soul left her. Her protective spirit left her. And it's gone, hidden away. And now it's been replaced with an angelic power that's come through. An angelic power which will not eat of our food, but it will eat of the pure milk of the dun and the speckled cow. You must go back and you must tell Angus this." And Eithne went back, and Angus was enlightened about what had happened. And from the time of the invasion of the Milesians through to the invasion of Tolkien, St. Patrick, she only drank the milk of the speckled or the dun cow, the sustaining food of Banva, of Boan, of Breed, of Go, of Bow, of the sustaining milk of the motherland. And that was Eithne's curse. Blessed